Welcome, everyone. My name is Alexis Carlin, and I'm the Digital Marketing and Operations Manager for Percussion Software. Thank you for joining us on today's webinar on increasing digital maturity to achieve customer engagement. Brett will speak for about 40 minutes, and at the end, we will have time to cover any questions you might have. To begin, I would like to just mention a few housekeeping notes. If you would like to live tweet, the Twitter tag for today's webinar is Web Marketing. The slides will be emailed to you after today's presentation and available on percussion.com. And there will be time for Q&A post-webinar, so please type your questions into the chat window and we'd be happy to answer them afterwards. Before we get started, a quick word on Percussion. Percussion software is the next generation in web content management. Percussion transforms how you manage content, making it easier than ever to accelerate your content marketing initiatives. Percussion software is used by AIDS.gov, Lancaster Bible College, Mass.gov, Sunoco, and Vegas.com. You can learn more about our products on www.percussion.com. Today's webinar will be presented by Brett Borgeson, the AVP of Practice Development at Ayantek. Brett has more than 25 years of experience serving technology clients in a variety of roles. He has developed online client strategies, managed and grown accounts, and led programs for clients in the financial services, healthcare, consumer, and manufacturing industries. Brett's work has also included developing online loyalty programs, establishing new social media channels, and designing multiple online channel capabilities. He has led projects for many large companies including Analog Devices, Hamonetics, Royal Philips Electronics, TD Bank, and Northwest Mutual. With that, take it away, Brett.
Thanks, Alexis. And welcome to our webinar on creating customer engagement. We're going to focus on creating engagement through increasing digital maturity today. Just a few quick words on my role at Ayantek, and we'll talk a little bit about Ayantek as well. My role is AVP of Practice Development, as Alexis said. What that means is I focus on areas of specialty for Ayantek. In particular, we are currently focused on areas of excellence in mobility and content management systems. So I set the strategy, the framework, the marketing positioning for those areas in particular. And Ayantek, for those who are not familiar with us, we're a digital consultancy. We focus on digital solutions for marketing programs and also deliver technology solutions. We focus on bringing it all together, strategy, user experience, usability, analytics, and technology to deliver great experiences for our clients and their customers. And you can see a few of our top clients are listed there at the bottom of the slide. We're located in Boston. We also have a major development arm out in India that handles all our technology solutions. And as I said, we kind of focus on trying to bring it all together for our clients, but we also have a significant focus on technology solutions. And in addition to the strategy, we actually deliver the solutions as well. So that's just a brief summary of who we are. I also want to mention that we've recently won a Mitex award. For those of you familiar with Mitex, we've recently won an award for B2B innovation, which we're very proud to announce and tout. So with that, I will move on. So today, as we go through the discussion on customer engagement, we'll start with a little bit of a self-assessment. And by that I mean we'll talk about we'll kind of summarize or get input from you rather on a poll of where you believe you are on the digital maturity model curve, and we'll explain what we mean by that. We have a couple of concepts we want to introduce also to set the stage for the rest of the talk. So we'll talk about how we assess digital maturity, and as I said, we'll talk about the framework for that, and that'll set the stage for the rest. And then we'll move on to our key points around understanding customer behavior at a detailed level. Also, a few words on delivering the right content. A lot of this is obviously focused on content and offers and marketing campaigns, getting the right message out at the right time for the right channel. And then we have a couple of three use cases that are centered around a client that we're actually working with right now who is actually going through the transformation of having a fairly solid web presence that actually is a reasonably good extension of their marketing arm, but now they want to move into kind of creating some customer engagement. They want to start targeting their segments more specifically. So we'll talk about the client that we're actually working with and highlight some examples to illustrate some of the steps that we're actually talking about today. And then after we do the examples, we'll talk about kind of how to keep that going, how to develop your strategy, refine the messages, so you can continue to hyper-target your customers and start to develop those one-on-one types of conversations. And then we'll wrap up with a little bit on some of the technologies and tactics that you need to actually support a digital marketing program of this nature, specifically to create customer engagement. One of our first concepts that we want to talk about is something we call the SMAC stack. SMAC stands for Social, Mobile, Analytics, and Cloud. You can think of cloud as technology platform. The reason we bring this up here is because we view our clients' needs as needing to, as I said, bringing things together. Historically, and many of our current clients actually look at channels such as social and mobile as isolated silos. They historically kind of work inside those channels without necessarily integrating or correlating those aspects to the entire digital program, and that's where we add value. We not only can help clients leverage their channels such as social and mobile more effectively or analytics more effectively, but where we add value is bringing that all together in the form of what we call a stack, which is a way of just representing those four entities as a whole to create a more holistic program, a more broad-based digital marketing program that creates great customer experiences for your customers regardless of how they interact with you and across all channels, both online and offline. Then the other concept that we want to talk about is, as I mentioned briefly, the digital maturity model itself. This is a very high-level representation of it. We have a much more detailed model that we actually use to assess clients' digital marketing postures, but for the purposes of this discussion, the high level will suffice. And you'll notice from left to right, we're talking about an increasing level of engagement, a different type of conversation with your customers as you go to the right of the slide. So at a basic level, what we're talking about is basically a brochureware kind of website. One size fits all, essentially a pull conversation, static, gets your message out, gets your product line descriptions out, for example, but doesn't necessarily provide a whole lot more than that, other than traffic. You probably understand how your traffic is working for you at a basic analytic level. Moving from basic to the tactical level, here at this stage, we're talking about clients who generally have a fairly good, solid web presence, maybe a mobile presence. Things are actually working fairly well for your marketing program to a certain point. You've got some kind of started to tailor some of the content to match specific client needs and client decisions. So you're starting to listen to some of the things that your customers are telling you. And in the middle, we're talking about optimizing that. And this is where we start to actually create customer engagement. This is where we start to actually target customer segments based on our analytics analysis. And we actually start to tailor our content and our offers to specific segments at specific places in the decision process. And then as we go further to the right, we start to think about automating some of this rather than having human intervention to analyze analytics and figuring out kind of on the fly what to do. At the automated stage, we're starting to actually use our marketing automation engine, for example, and integrate it with our CMS to program the business rules to map on a dynamic basis the type of offers that customers need as they go through their process. So we're talking about really understanding customer behavior here at a very detailed level. And finally, at the engaged level, we're talking about having hyper-targeting your customers, very rapid KPI, check on the KPIs, check on our analytics, check on our content, put those offers out there and responding in almost real-time fashion. So this is all about kind of the different conversations that people have with their customers. So I wanted to, based on this high-level description, I wanted to take a quick poll of the audience and get a quick read on where you think you are on the digital model curve based on what I just said. So Alexis, if we could take a quick poll and let people fill that in, feel free. Very good. Thank you. It looks like most of our audience is actually in the tactical stage or optimizing stage, which is great because that's the example we chose today. Many of our clients are in this area, and we want to. In fact, I'll take this slide to kind of introduce the specific client that we're talking about, rather than read all this detail. I want to just tell you the quick story of the client that we chose for this example. So this is a client that has historically been a local blood supply company manufacturer. They have grown over the last 6 or 7 years through a series of acquisitions to be a billion dollar entity, worldwide company that now is offering end-to-end solutions in the blood management space, not only hardware but software, and they've integrated all together to provide monitoring, all sorts of devices and solutions in the blood management space. And they came to us a couple of years ago to help them develop their branding position, develop their website presence, because they had a website that hadn't been touched in 10 years, and they had to go from essentially a very simple brochureware site to a corporate billion-dollar new branding presence with new messaging and everything. And so we ended up putting together a multi-phase, multi-channel program together for them, established their initial web presence, which they have today. It is an effective piece of their marketing program. They've started to get interaction, but it's mostly product descriptions. There's some centralized information like around customer service, which we'll talk about, that is directly oriented to some of the feedback and interactions they have gotten from customers. And now they're taking that next stage of trying to create more engagement, hyper-targeting their customer segments. They've gathered information on how people are using the site, what customers and prospects are looking for. They understand the business process at a slightly more detailed level than in the past. And so now they're poised to start to actually incorporate some of the rules-based personalization and specific campaigns targeted to their customer bases. And so we're actually going through those stages with them, and it's good to see that many of you are kind of at the same point, because this is as I said, this is the perception that we have in the marketplace, that many clients who are trying to expand their digital programs are trying to take this step from the tactical to what we call the optimizing stage. Our first key point is, as I mentioned earlier, understanding customer behavior. We're not just talking about understanding like personas. I'm sure many of you have personas or descriptions of your customer segments that describe the demographics of your major segments, what they're coming to the site for, what their goals are, what their role may be in the company. What we're talking about here is understanding the actual buying decision process, or whatever research process might be appropriate for your particular digital marketing program. So we're talking about understanding how customers actually behave in the decisions they make, and also tying that to specific business KPIs, many of which I've got listed over on the right. Not all of them may apply, but I'm sure that at least 2 or 3 of them do for most of you. And so what we're talking about here is mapping out the customer decision process and tying those points in the decision process to specific KPIs, so we know which decisions help us achieve our KPIs. That's the first step. And the second point is about content itself. So once you understand the process and you've got it mapped to specific KPIs, now we need to kind of step back potentially and revisit our content strategy to think about ways in which we might create further engagement to get that right message out there at the right time. So we want to map our content to that business process, understand what we want our users to take, what actions we want our users to take, what actions the users want to take, and try to marry that up. And then also think about the content that needs to make that effective. For example, it could be creating more innovative content, such as use of videos. It may actually be just a simple repositioning of some of the content, or perhaps thinking about specific offers. Is our client, the one I'm using as an example, is doing both. They're actually thinking about using video blogs a little more effectively. They've been found to be a good way of getting people oriented to their particular manufacturing line, so they're going to be doing that. And also, as I said, starting to put some specific offers together. Another technique that you might consider is gamification. This might apply for those of you who are in the higher education space. For example, if you're offering if you're trying to get people to take some sort of test scores, if you have like a test prep type of site, or if you're trying to get people engaged in some way to see how people can get through certain aspects of the process, gamification, a way to kind of make it fun and enjoyment, is another thing that you might want to consider. And it's a technique we've actually leveraged for other clients. So a couple of key points to mention here. So as we get into our examples, keep those points in mind. So the first area that we want to talk about is customer service. And this is an area that our particular client that we're using for the examples here is really focused on. So I've posed a scenario here. Carolyn has a product issue, wants to report it, but also needs to kind of, before she does that, has to look up some order information and has a couple of questions of her sales rep before she's doing so. So she wants to very quickly get through the process. She knows exactly what she wants to do, but she needs a couple of quick pieces of information to look that up. And this is what our client is trying to affect as well, is put the right information out there for her to get her through that process. And our KPIs, our client's KPIs, I should say, are listed on the right. In this case, what we're trying to affect in this stage is reducing our call center volume, reducing our costs, and actually shortening the support process to increase customer satisfaction. So that's kind of at the stage where we are now. In the past, and before we evolved to our current state, she would have had two choices. She would have had a phone line for the product, the hardcore product line, the manufacturing line, or she would have had a phone line for software, and that would have been it. And it wasn't clear, who was going to take that call, how it was going to be processed. It was, the call could have gone anywhere. So what we helped our client do is, in addition to centralizing the content service information into one place, put some FAQs and some information to help clients kind of solve common problems and answer questions, get questions answered. We actually help them organize their customer service to be more regionally based, number one, and to have an organized set of protocols so we could actually answer phone calls when they came in. And again, this had to be done on a global basis. There's some complex business rules around what products can be sold in what countries, so we had to be very specific about how those calls were going to be handled and what kind of information was going to be processed. So that's kind of where we come from. And then ultimately where we're going to go after we get to this next stage is actually start to create that sort of self-service type of platform where the customer service experience will be much more tailored to people like Carolyn, who, because we know her order history and we know her how she's, what issues she's reported in the past, what products she has, and how she's interacted, we'll start to actually focus on tailored content that she'll have to actually help answer questions even more efficiently than we will be in the very near future. So that gives you a little bit of a spectrum of kind of how we're focused on customer service as one example. Our next example is around mobile. Now, in this particular case, we did not have, for our client, we didn't have a mobile presence before now. So we're actually, as part of this engagement phase, we're actually creating a mobile website that will work in conjunction with the main website. So our scenario here is a guy, Mike, who is a purchasing agent. He's looking for an auto transfusion system for his hospital. He's a purchasing agent. We know he's done some initial research on the site. He's actually looked at a few of our products, and he is in a meeting. He's in a product decision meeting. They're trying to make a decision to move forward, and he needs to look up something very specific to answer a question. So this is the scenario, again, that we're trying to meet with our current stage of the website. And this, again, is based on our understanding and our analytics of how customers behave, how our, what our research prospects, our purchasing agents have done. So in this case, our clients' KPIs are increasing use of the mobile channel. So we want to get more effective use of that channel to see how it can work for the client. And then we also want to shorten the sales cycle. We also want to, because we understand the buying process, we want to help Mike make decisions more efficiently and more quickly to actually make him feel wowed and more comfortable, but also just to help us sell more product and help, it's a win-win. That's the idea that we're trying to accomplish. So here with the mobile channel, we're trying to get content published to multiple platforms at the same time. So what we'll be doing with our CMS is pushing out content so that it's similar across product lines, we'll have the same message for each product for both the website and the mobile site, but we'll also tailor the content to the mobile site and the mobile type of transaction. So we know that, for example, that mobile users aren't spending a great deal of time on their phones. looking at websites and particular product information. So we're not going to have all the product information out there. We'll keep it light, very summary level. Of course, they can get to the main website via links if they need to look up other things, but we're keeping features and content very light and very specific so they can get through the process again very quickly. And we will also be tying analytics to the mobile channel more specifically, so that we have an initial understanding, as I said, of the buying process and what we think customers will do, but we're going to be focused on gathering analytics on the mobile channel and on customer behavior to see how effective that's going. So ultimately, we can start to, again, hyper-target mobile users. There may be some specific campaigns that we'll put out. In the near future, our campaigns will be similar across their web entities, but ultimately we expect that we'll have very specific mobile campaigns and offers for those users. Keep in mind, this is not kind of an e-commerce type of situation where people are buying these types of products like you would buy a book on Amazon. So it's not quite the same model. If you were in an e-commerce model, for example, then it would be much more tailored to kind of understanding how mobile users, for example, transact. If they transact with you on the mobile channel, then we could very easily generate coupons, special offers, those kinds of things. Those would be appropriate for that sort of scenario. Our third scenario is around customizing the web experience. Here again, we have a similar purchasing agent scenario. This one is more regionalized. Garrett is in Germany. He's looking at blood recovery systems in this case. We know based on our analytics that he has come to a specific product page a couple of times, has downloaded a spec, and now he's coming back to look at other product information. So we know in this case, based on our understanding of the process, that he's likely or very close to being, making a buying decision. So we want to, again, enable that for him. So we want to, again, get, in this case, because of the type of product we're selling, we also want to develop an offline relationship between our sales team and a key prospect like Garrett. So we want to present an offer to him to schedule a demo of the product and or have a chat with a sales representative. So those are, Garrett's goals is to get through the process, but quickly, but also feel like he's actually talking to a partner. And our KPIs, our clients' KPIs, obviously are, in this case, increasing the revenue and shortening the sales cycle once again. But we also, again, from the client's perspective, we also want to establish a key relationship with a prospect like Garrett in order to establish kind of a long-term give and take kind of relationship. So what we've done to position the client in this case is actually enable the website to present these key offers based on the behavior. So this goes back again to the point I made earlier about understanding the process of the customer behavior. So our previous work of understanding the customer process, establishing those business rules, and then updating those personas into more detailed profiles is now paying off here, where we're going to be able to present a very specialized experience for Garrett. Again, as I've mentioned a couple times, analytics is key here. We are helping the client use their analytics package to actually derive insights, understand the influencers of the behavioral pattern. One of the techniques I also wanted to talk about that may apply for some of you is predictive modeling. We've used that for clients to help further drive insights. Predictive modeling, for those of you who don't know what that is a sort of a statistical term that refers to being able to take data, analyze it, and then predict outcomes based on a set of assumed desired outcomes and the influencers by which those outcomes can be achieved. So, for example, we can do analysis in this case to determine which type of offer or which type of tailored experience will most likely move Garrett to making his purchase decision. In this case, it's a combination of offering him a product demo, but also connecting him with the sales rep that will help move him through the process. So we're using those techniques for clients who are in this space as well. So hopefully those examples help you understand kind of the steps that we need to take to start to create customer engagement. I want to talk a little bit about how to keep refining that message and the ongoing strategy that needs to be in place to further deepen the customer engagement. So the process that I've outlined of looking at analytics, matching to KPIs, revisiting content, that all that all needs to keep going basically at each stage. Analytics will be your key driver, and then getting those detailed customer profiles in place will be important to help you understand where to publish your detailed your tailored campaigns and your offers. So one of the other things that needs to happen is, and this is the case with our client, is their products and sales organizations need to be aligned. Once we got, in order to do this, we had to organizationally help them align around the global presence that we now had with the web channel. So in addition to helping them do all these particular things, there were some organizational things and infrastructure things that had to happen. They had to position their infrastructure to be scalable so we could add additional features or add additional products, whatever we needed to do, add additional updates. And so there was a lot, actually, there's a lot that's gone on with our example client, for example, and a lot that will be going on as we go forward. So lastly, I want to touch on a little bit about some of the tools and tactics that we need to kind of support this type of engagement and the multi-channel strategy program. I've illustrated CMS and marketing automation here as two of the keystones of a digital marketing program, and many of you may be already using these tools. The point I want to make about this is the line around what a CMS does and what marketing automation does is becoming more and more blurred every day. CMSs and marketing automation, they're starting to blend, and this goes back to even the SmackStack point I was making earlier, that a lot of these things a lot of these tools and a lot of these concepts are now becoming really more integrated, and that's what we're illustrating here is a more integrated approach of a robust CMS and a marketing automation to start getting that traction with your customers, to get those one-on-one conversations going. And in fact, CMSs are starting to actually show, there are a couple of prominent CMSs that are actually starting to show on the marketing automation matrix that Gartner puts out. And that's no better illustration of where the space is going. So whether CMSs and marketing automation engines are actually becoming one, or whether CMSs like Percussion are integrating more effectively with other types of tools such as marketing automation. The point is these two things are now working together, and these are two key pieces that you'll need to actually support customer engagement going forward, and leveraging them effectively will be key. So one of the most important things is being able to use your CMS as your publishing engine. I mean, it's obviously it's the workhorse of publishing all your content. So it needs to effectively be able to publish content to all your channels, both mobile and your website. It needs to be presented in a way that will look good and work correctly on all different types of platforms. And again, leveraging analytics and doing specific campaigns and getting that feedback will help you understand how more effectively you can leverage the CMS going forward. And as they become more integrated with the marketing automation, those business rules that I talked about can be programmed in so that the offers become automatic, as opposed to, again, requiring human intervention to actually figure out. And lastly, I just want to say that we need to also measure this keep measuring against our KPIs, and start to do this in a much more rapid fashion, so that everything, the marketing program's goals and our tools are all working together. And ultimately, as we get one-on-one, as we establish one-on-one conversations, then all of your channels start to work together, and we develop one holistic view of the customer, both online and offline. So, quick summary I just wanted to list very quickly the tools that you'll need to be successful to create customer engagement. Again, you need a robust analytics package, get those detailed customer profiles in place, robust CMS that can publish content to multiple channels and start to integrate the analytics and the behavior and feedback. Having a scalable infrastructure in place is key also. And then you may also need to think about resources and modifying your organization slightly. Depending upon what you need to do with analytics, you may need, for example, a statistician or somebody who really can get into the data, or you may need to organize, like I said earlier, around globally, your sales and IT organizations may need to be organized. Marketing organizations maybe need to organize more effectively to take advantage of the new web presence, some of the things you're trying to do with your customers. So with that, I will turn it over to Alexis to field some questions. Hopefully this was helpful to you.
Thank you, Brett. I really appreciate that. That was very, I learned a lot. I definitely did. Thank you. So we have a fair amount of questions coming in, which is great. But in the meantime, if anybody has any questions for Brett, please don't hesitate to type them into the chat window. We'd be more than happy to answer them throughout the question portion of this presentation. So the first question is, what are the technology investments that a company will require to jump between stages of digital maturity? So for example, what are the tech infrastructure differences between a company at stages 1, 2, and 3?
That's a great question. I mean, it's hard to answer that in sort of a general sense, but I can answer it using the example client that we talked about. So our client had, when they first started to develop their global presence, they had a basic infrastructure in place that allowed them to publish content, but not very efficiently. It was very difficult to update their website, and that was one of the things we had to address on the technology side and the business process side. So we had to work with their IT organization to kind of reconfigure some of the ways they were handling security, for example. We ended up with a hosted solution for their website that was outside their physical infrastructure and managed by a different organization, and then had that tied into the back end, so we could have the website, manage the website more efficiently. Going forward, and in the stage that we're in now, we're upgrading the current CMS. We're putting in some updates to the analytics, and we're doing some updates on the marketing automation side to allow to provide that level of flexibility that I was talking about earlier. Those are some of the investments that I'm aware of. I know that there's some other things going on in the infrastructure side that I'm not directly involved in, but for the things that we are directly involved in, those are the kinds of things that we have worked with the client on. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yes, I think it does. So a question we got from the audience, which I think is a great question, is what are the key things you want to look for when you're looking at those specific tools that you outlined in the end? So you said a CMS, you said a marketing automation system, you said analytics. What are the key questions you want to ask when you're looking at those tools?
Again, very, very good question, and it's hard to answer in 2 minutes. But from an analytics perspective, I would say, again, if you are trying to analyze your customer's behavior and trying to understand that at a more detailed level, or let's say you do understand it, you need to be sure your analytics package can give you the level of analysis that you need to actually tell you how your customers are behaving and how they're making decisions. Packages like Google Analytics might be sufficient for you depending upon how granular you need to get. Google Analytics will tell you a lot of stuff about obviously traffic. You can also get conversion information out of that, but to do some of the types of things, like I said, around predictive modeling, you actually need some additional packages that take the data from Google Analytics and actually work with it, for example. On the CMS side, again, the type of CMS you need will vary depending upon your requirements. I mean, it's a broad question. I mean, for creating and customer engagement, I would go back to some of the points I made earlier, which is your CMS needs to be able to effectively publish content to different channels. It needs to, if it's not already tied into and has marketing automation features, it needs to be able to integrate with CRMs and other applications effectively, so that you can start to centralize some of the information you need to publish. I think that covers the primary set of tools. Did I miss anything?
No, I don't think you did. That was great. Thank you.
Okay.
So the next question kind of adds on to this question is, so is it possible for a small or mid-sized business to bootstrap themselves along the digital maturity model so that they still can compete with larger enterprises?
Yes, I think absolutely. We're not trying to suggest that everybody has to go out and buy the most sophisticated tools on the market to achieve what we're, the kind of customer engagement that we're talking about. So I would say, it really depends on how you analyze your infrastructure and your what your client's goal, what your customers' goals are. So I would say that as I said earlier, Google Analytics, for example, might be sufficient, but you also may need to augment. You may need to, rather than enhancing your analytics package, for example, you may need to augment your staff with somebody who can read and interpret the data more effectively, or knows how to use tools outside of Google Analytics to provide those insights. So it's obviously going to be very different. This is again a point I was making earlier. It's very different for every client. We don't expect that you need necessarily need to make a huge investment to achieve this. It really depends on your business, your clients, and how they make decisions and what you want them to do. In some cases, you do need to make investments. In the case of our client, the one I used as an example, they did have to make some reasonable size investments to accomplish what they're doing, because they were not poised from an infrastructure perspective to do some of the things that they wanted to do from a marketing perspective. So hopefully that helps.
Perfect, thank you. So we had another great question come in. Can you give some specific examples of the intersection of CMS and marketing automation? So how is MAS marketing automation systems best used to deliver highly targeted content?
Well, so one example would be campaigns. So having your CMS be able to kind of measure the effectiveness of campaigns, or at least be able to gather the data that measures the effectiveness of campaigns, and so your CMS, as it relates to its marketing automation, is it needs to be aware of a campaign, what content it needs to offer, or what content is being offered, so that the information, the idea being that at least within the CMS and the analytics package, you can again derive the insights and be able to measure the effectiveness of particular campaigns, so that you can see whether or not your, let's say your coupon offer was actually effective, and you can make changes within the CMS on the fly to alter that content and alter those offers. That to me is sort of the sweet spot of interaction of the two.
Great. So I think we have time for one more question. So the final question is, as I move along the scale towards reaching one-on-one engagement, how will this affect my marketing department? Will I be able to handle this growth with my current staff, or will I need to hire a statistics analyst, for example?
Yeah, I mean yes, that's one example you might. And again, I'm not going to be able to answer this generically for everybody, but you may need to just think about repositioning your marketing organization a little bit, and adding some additional skills. So in the case of our client, they essentially reorganized their marketing and customer service organizations to be able to align more effectively with how the products are being sold, and the messaging the messaging that goes out to the customers. So they haven't necessarily augmented the staff. They've got a couple people who have sort of transitioned from other roles in the organization to help with some of the data analysis, for example. So it isn't necessarily a hardcore type of statistician that you need. It's someone who just is able, at least is able to understand data and manipulate it, so that we could get insights out of it. Now, if you're trying to do something like I was talking about earlier, like the predictive modeling, those kinds of things that are truly hardcore statistics require statistics skills, then you should think about hiring like a data analyst type type of person. But I would say in general, you know, again, we would not expect that you would have to, you know, add staff to accomplish some of the things we're talking about. But I will say, you know, as you get more sophisticated with your customer targeting and your conversations with your customers do become more like a one-on-one, where you're establishing sort of that well-oiled machine of looking at KPIs, looking at analytics, changing your content. You know, you may need people to kind of focus very specifically on specific aspects like the product line or specific you know, specific types of customers, for example.
Perfect. Thank you. So that about wraps up all of our questions for today. I want to thank you on Ayantek for doing today's webinar. Brett especially, that was wonderful. I definitely learned a lot. The slides will be available after today's presentation. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us on Twitter or go to our blogs as well. Thank you for your time, and we hope you have a great day.